Wednesday, October 2nd, 2002. It's a lovely autumn day in Washington, D.C. and the surrounding area. Citizens are going about their everyday lives and business. But things are about to change. 6:04 p.m. in a shopping mall parking lot in Silver Spring, Maryland. A man returns to his car with groceries and is shot dead.
There was no rhyme or reason.
The next morning at 7:40 a.m., a maintenance worker is gunned down. Half an hour later, so is a taxi driver.
I'm at one crime scene, and there's notification that we have another crime scene.
At 8:37 a.m., a woman is killed outside a post office.
Maybe 30 minutes later, there's another shooting.
This time, it's a mother of two murdered while cleaning her van.
What is going on here that makes these people targets?
A population under siege.
The potential pool of targets is everybody.
We were looking for a ghost because we didn't know where he would strike.
Is it terrorist? Is it some nut out there taking shots at people?
No one is safe, not even the cops.
In my normal line of work, I didn't fear for my life on an everyday basis.
Hundreds of investigators join forces in the struggle to catch an invisible killer. Can forensic science help put an end to the terror? Five people have been gunned down in cities and towns around Washington, D.C. Four of them in the space of 3 hours.
We had a lot of people that were dead, and nobody knew why.
Montgomery County Police Chief Charles Moose looks for anything that might connect the victims.
But it's really people doing everyday kinds of things. Guy picking up groceries, guy cutting grass at a car dealership, a guy pumping gas in his taxi cab.
When you started to make a list of the people that were dead, there was nothing that tied them together. Not their race, not their age, not their gender.
Authorities scour the morning's 4 murder scenes for any clues that could point to who's behind this. But at every location, it's the same story.
It's a pretty nondescript crime scene, not a lot of evidence. There's a little bit of blood, but nothing really from a forensic standpoint.
Not a single shell casing from the bullets that felled the victims is recovered. Which begs the question, where did the shots come from? Witnesses in each vicinity are questioned, to no avail.
People don't particularly see anything, don't particularly hear anything. We're really at the hands of the medical examiner to tell us what happened.
At the morgue, bullets and bullet fragments removed from the victims provide authorities with their first evidence. They are rushed to the ballistics labs of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives for analysis.
We weigh the bullets, measure the diameter of the base of the bullet. This is to help us determine the caliber of the bullet itself.
Experts also study the distinct land and groove impressions imparted to the bullets when they travel through a gun barrel.
The random microscopic imperfections in the barrel will transfer to the bullet and repeat themselves from one shot to the next. much like that of your fingerprint.
And once we determine the caliber, the number of lands and grooves, their measurements, we're able to check the database to see the possible manufacturers of firearms that bullet may have been fired from.
In the face of the inexplicable killings, officers from dozens of jurisdictions pour into the streets on high alert.
We didn't know if it was one person, if it was two persons, or if it was a group of people.
In a startling development, the FBI visits Moose with disturbing intelligence that suggests a motive behind the attacks: terrorism.
We get the briefing that Al-Qaeda has been trained to shoot Congress people in the Washington, D.C. area. And then the caveat, if not Congress people, then best available targets.
I mean, keep in mind, this is very much in the shadow of 9/11.
And if it was terrorists doing it for terrorist purposes, then I'm not sure we would know what that would look like.
News of the bizarre multiple homicides soon sends shockwaves throughout the region. Moose knows it's only a matter of time before the media trickle becomes a flood. But he's got nothing to tell them until word arrives of the first break in the case. A witness to one of the shootings has come forward.
There was a landscaper nearby, and he actually heard the shot.
He reports seeing a vehicle leaving the scene, a white van. And inside the van, 2 white men.
The picture's in.
Police quickly obtain photographs of possible models of the white van and distribute them to the press.
Let's do it.
They wanted the media to get out there so the public could help them find these guys.
That afternoon, Moose holds a press conference and tries to reassure the public.
We don't have anybody right now.
It's a tough task, especially when he speaks of the victims.
The worst thing about the case was that all of the victims were chosen at random. So consequently, everyone in the community felt like a potential target.
And that's what really scared the hell out of people.
The rest of the afternoon and early evening pass without incident.
You're just hoping somehow that it's some freakish thing. This is just all some person having a mental health crisis, and it's going to be over.
But such hopes are in vain. Pascal Charlotte, a 72-year-old carpenter, is slain in Washington, D.C. while out for an evening stroll. He is the 6th casualty in just over 24 hours. On the morning of October 4th, a tense population awakes. And the horror continues. A 43-year-old woman is shot in the parking lot of an arts and crafts store in Fredericksburg, Virginia. A white van is spotted leaving the scene. But this time, there's a miracle. The victim survives. Determined to catch the assailant, authorities set up a task force and centralize operations. The ATF, FBI, DEA, Secret Service, and the renowned U.S. Marshals all sign on.
We had, I think, 60 law enforcement agencies involved from all over Virginia, Washington, D.C., Maryland.
A phone tip line is established, along with a $50,000 reward for information. That same day, ballistics results arrive from the ATF. The findings offer investigators the first tangible piece of this deadly puzzle.
Those bullets and bullet fragments were being fired from the same firearm.
And the weapon ID'd is a long-range, high-powered rifle.
We're dealing with a .22 class rifle.
Experts conclude the shooter is using either the U.S. military's M16 or its civilian version, the AR-15. A sniper is on the loose, assassinating citizens at will. The task force presses its investigation, checking parole records, gun purchases, and the criminal histories of anyone who owns firearms. They talk to every gun dealer in the region and appeal to the public.
We believe this is the type of gun that is being used by the assailant. We're asking the public to please report any suspicious owners of weapons like this to our tip line.
What kind of gun is that, Chief?
Fear grips the entire area.
People were staying home. People were afraid. It was all over the area. The malls had less people. The freeways had less people.
There were people, citizens, walking up and just saying, you know, I need to know whether I should take my kid to school tomorrow, or I should pick him up, or should I let him take the bus?
Law enforcement does its best to calm public nerves.
The police are everywhere. We're in your neighborhoods. We're stationed outside your children's schools.
There are no shootings on the weekend. Police and the public again dare to dream the killings have stopped. They are unaware that a killer has simply taken a respite before committing his most heinous act yet. Five days of random shootings around Washington, D.C. have killed 6 and injured 1. On Monday, October 7th at 8:09 a.m. in Bowie, Maryland, 13-year-old schoolboy Iron Brown is shot through the chest.
There was a kid going to school, an even more innocent victim, which just sort of ratcheted this whole thing up.
It seemed to be a direct message that we couldn't keep the kids okay.
Police immediately cordon off the area. The boy is administered emergency treatment. Medical personnel managed to save his life. A massive search is launched of the schoolyard, as well as a wooded area nearby.
Line searches are set up to go systematically through an area, section by section, and not miss anything because you're shoulder to shoulder.
This effort leads to the recovery of a .223 caliber shell casing in the woods, 140 yards from where Brown fell. The surrounding bush has been separated and matted down. A nearby footpath leads out to a major road and easy escape. And off the path, investigators find a strange piece of evidence. A calling card from the sniper. This clue is rushed to the lab. It's the death card from the tarot deck.
You're very hopeful that there'll be a fingerprint on it, any DNA on it. Is there anything in the ink that may lead you to some specialty shop?
No prints or DNA traces are found, but across the top is written 3 shocking words. Call me God.
It was basically mocking the police. Come catch me. I'm invincible.
The card makes authorities wonder just what kind of psychopath they're dealing with. FBI profilers and behavioral experts paint a picture of the likely suspect.
The expert's perspective was white males do serial killings, that the person was going to be 25 to 30 and not have a girlfriend and be in the military.
Whoever the sniper may be, Moose sees a small spark of hope in his message.
We now have somebody that wants to talk about this.
As investigators ponder how to open communication with a killer, the slaughter continues. Dean Harold Myers was a 53-year-old engineering project manager. A witness sees a white van leaving the scene. The task force tip line overflows with calls as the reward for information surpasses $200,000. Based on credible tips, several suspects are investigated and arrested. The Pentagon lends a hand, providing state-of-the-art surveillance technology. Even the president weighs in.
We're lending all the resources of the federal government to find this, whoever it is.
Unfortunately for police, their relationship to the press is growing testy.
We were essentially angry at the pace of the investigation. We were angry that we were not being told very much.
It made it very difficult to conduct an investigation ongoing while the media is conducting one simultaneously.
Leaks become pervasive.
We had to tell them that if they were caught following the investigators, they were going to be arrested.
The unrelenting sniper claims his next victim on October 10th. Kenneth Bridges was a 53-year-old father of 6 and a respected businessman. Again, a white van is reported fleeing the vicinity. October 14th brings yet another murder. Linda Franklin was an FBI analyst and mother of 2. As at all the shootings, police shut down traffic in the entire region.
Driving down Route 1, I would see a half-dozen agents, guns drawn, big assault rifles, surrounding white vans, pulling the drivers out.
But the number of white vans out there is vast.
I remember sitting for 3 or 4 turns of the traffic light there, and I counted 50 white vans that would go through.
No vans are isolated. No suspects stick. No pattern emerges.
All of our many, many leads right now are leading to nothing.
People in the Washington area are living under incredible strain. Even the police feel like targets.
My kids were running through parking lots because I made them. I had them ducking down in the car at gas stations.
There were gas stations where they would have big signs out in front, "We will pump your gas."
My kids were sending me out the door saying, "You got to catch him today, Mom, so we can go back outside and play." And, it was just every day, every breathing moment, you were thinking about this case.
The number of calls to the tip line becomes staggering.
I believe we had 60,000 emails in addition to the 100,000 phone calls.
Police remain convinced the key to preventing more deaths is establishing communication with the sniper. What they don't know is death has come calling. The Washington, D.C. region is living in terror as the death toll continues to mount. Authorities desperately want to make contact with a sniper who calls himself God. They have no idea that God is trying to contact them too. But with thousands of calls overwhelming dispatchers, getting through isn't easy. Then, on October 17th, Officer Derek Belisle, spokesman for the Montgomery County Police, nears the end of a very long shift. He takes what he hopes is his last call.
Montgomery Police Department, how may I help you?
Shut up and listen, or more people will die.
That phone call was unlike anything I'd ever had before. It was a very firm voice, a male voice that was very insistent.
I am the sniper. I have tried to contact you many times. Your phones are either busy or you hang up. It better not happen this time.
Yes, sir, I'm listening.
The caller delivers Belial's a strange message.
Montgomery, Alabama. A liquor store robbery. 2 women shot. 1 died.
I think that he was trying to send a message that he was the real deal. That if you don't think I'm serious, check the Montgomery killings.
The call lasted probably just a little bit more than a minute, and after it was over, I called the command center.
As police begin searching for an Alabama connection, the sniper strikes again in Ashland, Virginia. The victim is 37-year-old Jeffrey Hopper. A bullet tears through his upper abdomen and shatters several organs. But he is the 3rd target to survive. Agents comb the surrounding area for evidence.
The ATF went out into the woods and did a once-over and actually found a shell casing.
And nearby, something more compelling. A second communication from the sniper. It's immediately rushed to the lab.
And so whatever's in that bag, in that note, is going to be critical to our forensics, to our science. So the handling of that whole thing is done very professionally, done very methodically. But that all takes time.
Again, no prints or DNA is found. The note is then analyzed for its content. Investigators first noticed the use of "we" and "us" repeatedly, advertising more than one killer. And that's not all.
They asked for $10 million, and they asked us to deliver it over a credit card that they could use at the ATMs to do withdrawals.
We were scratching our heads with that one. Here we've got some sniper out there shooting people. Is it all for money? It didn't quite make sense what their MO was at that point.
But in their zeal to analyze the letter forensically, authorities are late to notice a key piece of its content. The gunman left the number of a payphone outside the restaurant where Hopper was shot, and a time they would call police at that payphone to negotiate their demands. The hour has long passed, leaving law enforcement open to the sniper's threat of more killings to come. But now the task force has a specific phone number, and the marshals can bring more of their skills to bear.
Our expertise in our technical operations area and our electronic surveillance was needed.
If the snipers can be convinced to call the number they left in their note, agents can finally close in on them.
The ability to track a telephone call is pretty simple. You just have to have a number on one end or the other to research either all the calls going out from that phone, or we could trap every call coming into there.
We went ahead and forwarded any calls into that number to our command posts.
Moose has the media deliver a message to the snipers. Call us at the number of the payphone by the restaurant that you provided. And the cops are waiting. Within 24 hours, they get a hit.
Hello, this is Chief Moose.
Call me God.
Keep them going.
Okay.
You have failed us.
In less than a minute, the marshals succeed in tracing the number the snipers are calling from.
We got the location.
The information was relayed down to our inspector in that area, and he put it out to all the units.
SWAT teams descend on the scene. They target a man in a phone booth and his partner nearby.
Get down! Get down! Put your hands up! Get down!
up on the television screens. Possible snipers have been arrested in Washington. Breaking news, CNN. Everybody got kind of excited, putting it all together. White van, payphone.
Yeah.
But the U.S. Marshals soon realized there's been a big mistake.
No, you've got the wrong phone booth.
What?
You're on the wrong side of the street.
The payphone in front of the white van was not the phone that the sniper had called from.
It's from that phone booth over there.
The phone they had used is only yards away.
Maybe they picked that location because there was a person on the phone at the time in a white van.
The snipers slip away again. But they may have made a serious mistake, telling Officer Belials about the Alabama liquor store robbery.
I called Montgomery, Alabama, and spoke to Sergeant Martinez, who told me that indeed a shooting had occurred at a liquor store.
And the strangest thing, when the suspect ran away, there was an item dropped.
And on that item is a crucial piece of forensic evidence that could change everything. Police have missed the snipers in a botched takedown. But a lead from the killers themselves keeps law enforcement on their trail. At a robbery in Montgomery, Alabama, a gunman dropped a magazine from his pocket as he fled.
The magazine that was dropped was a guns and ammo magazine. And in fact, I think one of the pages was folded over to sniper scopes.
And on that page is a vital piece of evidence.
They had lifted a print off of that magazine, but they hadn't processed it.
The magazine is shipped to the Sniper Task Force, and the fingerprint is run through the FBI's massive federal database. The search for a match strikes gold. Investigators are shocked. The man identified is only 17 years old. His name is Lee Boyd Malvo.
We had talked about these sniper video games that kids play. So early on, we hadn't dismissed the fact that it may be kids playing out a video game.
Malvo had been fingerprinted 2 years before when he was held temporarily as a possible illegal immigrant from Jamaica.
Also, thank you.
Reviewing various related documents, the marshals noticed something intriguing.
I saw that there was a common denominator in these reports.
There is frequent mention of another person in Malvo's company, a man by the name of John Muhammad.
When you go through an immigration process, you have to tell the authorities who you are being sponsored by, who you're going to be associated with, and that information all pointed to John Muhammad.
Police conduct research on Muhammad. William Sarukas taps a federal database, getting a hit on a driver's permit for a John Muhammad in Washington, and before that, in California.
I called a friend of mine from the California Department of Motor Vehicles and asked that he get Muhammad's picture to me as soon as possible. That was on the night of the 21st when I called him. I had that picture at about 3 a.m. the 22nd.
Authorities get their first look at Muhammad. Not another teenager, but a man in his 30s. They wonder, is he also involved in the killings? And will the killings ever stop? Bus driver Conrad Johnson, 35 and a father of 2, is gunned down in Aspen Hill. He is victim number 13. Near the scene is another note. It reasserts the sniper's demand for $10 million and says, your incompetence has cost you another life. The press gets wind that authorities have possible suspects in their sights. But Moose isn't talking.
We were not happy that we weren't getting information and that things weren't moving forward.
But the chief has his reasons for keeping things quiet.
We weren't able to say that they were the snipers. We couldn't put too strong connections out there and prematurely because this was a huge case. So it was a very delicate dance.
Further research reveals that John Muhammad has a vehicle registered to his name, but it's not a white van. It's an older model Chevrolet Caprice, and it's been around.
We found 12 instances where law enforcement had made inquiries on that particular car, almost all of them consistent with shootings either before or after.
Muhammad was talked to by a police officer doing a traffic stop following a shooting, you know, when we shut down the freeways.
The reason nothing happened is because at that time it was not a wanted vehicle.
Police were only focused on a white van.
The search for the white van became everything. That if we can just find the right white van, we'll solve this case. The white van became the white elephant of the entire event.
Muhammad's name is entered into the task force's phone tip line database, and it pays off.
Amongst these 60,000 tips that we had received a tip from someone that knew Muhammad.
Investigators are soon across the country in Washington state, interviewing Muhammad's buddy from the military, Robert Holmes.
We were in the Army. We were at Fort Lewis at the same time for probably about 2-3 years. We were always good friends, so we stayed in touch.
Holmes tells authorities Muhammad paid frequent visits to his house.
John Muhammad. What's up, man?
On one of these visits, Muhammad showed up with a new companion.
How you going, man? Hey, you know how they got.
He came down one day and he had Lee with him, and he introduced Lee to me. He said Lee was a sniper.
It's a sniper. Sniper, how you doing, man?
I mean, it was like he said it, and you know, you could have taken it as a joke or whatever.
Holmes relates the story of how Muhammad met Malvo in Jamaica while dating the boy's mother, and later sponsored the youth when mother and son immigrated to the U.S. It was during this time that Malvo was fingerprinted. He soon became estranged from his mother and hit the road with Muhammad.
Malvo was desperately looking to follow a dominant male figure that he had not had prior in his life.
Okay, you're loaded. Peer down your barrel. You see him? Peer down the scope. Okay, you ready? You're gonna shoot.
Several reports refer to it as a father-son relationship.
Fire one.
Where he took this young man under his wing and was going to show him the ways of the world.
But after several failed businesses, failed marriages, and a bitter custody dispute, John Muhammad's worldview was increasingly fueled by anger, resentment, and paranoia.
He was depressed and probably a little bit angry, but it's probably like controlled anger.
One day, Muhammad and Malvo left their friend's home in Washington state and headed for Washington, D.C. Muhammad told Holmes he was off to settle a score with his ex-wife, Mildred.
He says, I pretty much know where Mildred's at. He said Mildred's in the D.C. area. It's just a matter of me pinpointing her.
Months later, when Holmes sees news coverage of the sniper case, he becomes suspicious.
And the reason I called is there was people getting killed. Me and John, we're as close to being brothers without having the blood, okay? So if it had been my blood brother doing that and I thought it was him, I would still have to make the call.
John Muhammad and Lee Malvo are now the investigation's prime suspects. But can police find them before another life is taken? Authorities believe they have finally identified their snipers, but are racing the clock, trying to find them before more victims are killed.
So do we or do we not release these names to the media?
There can be good and bad in notifying the public. The good is we have that many more people looking for this person. The bad can be that we drive that person away from an area that we may already have an interest in.
You put their names out there. Do they run? Do they get rid of the automobile? Do they get rid of the gun?
There was some debate, and ultimately it was decided not to release the information.
Back in Tacoma,
Yeah, they were standing right over there.
Holmes shows police the tree in his backyard the suspects used for target practice.
What gun was it? It's Bushmaster, AR-15. Powerful weapon.
But in yet another leak, the media gets tipped off to Holmes and descends on his residence.
No comment, no comment right now. Later.
They were camped out in front of the house. They had the street blocked off, all this craziness.
The best lead yet was in the news, and that if our suspects saw that clip, you know, they'd be in the wind.
Things get even worse for the task force.
The word came out through one of the network media outlets that the police were looking for a Chevy Caprice, and they had the tag number. The decision was made by the editor at our radio station to use that information and to repeat that information rather frequently.
October 24th, 1 a.m. Only 6 hours since Muhammad's license plate number was leaked to the public. Whitney Donahue, a refrigeration mechanic, parks at a Maryland rest stop off Interstate 70.
Whitney Donahue had been following this case extremely closely because he drove a white van and got pulled over a number of times just as a citizen driving a white van, which you can imagine was very frustrating for him.
Earlier, he had heard radio reports disseminating information about the Caprice.
He wrote down the license plate, NDA21Z.
Donahue finds himself just a few feet away from the most wanted men in America. He calls 911. But in an all too familiar twist that has plagued the case from the start, he is unable to get through. The mechanic doesn't flee. He calls again and again. Eventually, he reaches authorities.
Yeah, I can see the sniper's car. I'm right beside him.
His call is routed to the command center.
It's just parked there. I don't see anyone. I don't know.
Where are you?
I'm just off of I-70 at a rest stop.
Police prepare to move in.
3 different SWAT teams from Montgomery County, Maryland State Police, and the FBI were teaming up.
Law enforcement must prepare for all contingencies. Has the car been abandoned? Or are the snipers hiding inside? Or worse, are they in the woods, waiting to pick off anyone who approaches? State troopers close off the highways around the rest stop. With the area secure, the SWAT team goes into action. Muhammad and Malvo were both asleep in the car, but they're wide awake now. Police have captured 2 men they believe terrorized the D.C. area for 23 days. ATF agent Tim Curtis arrives at dawn with a search warrant and examines their car for evidence. He soon finds exactly what he's hoping for. An AR-15 Bushmaster rifle.
It was at that point, all the agents and law enforcement personnel on the scene, yeah, you could hear a gasp of relief coming from them.
The rifle is rushed to the lab to determine if it's the murder weapon.
We examined it to see if it was operational, and we took it down to the water tank and test fired. We recovered the bullets and put them on the comparison microscope.
The impressions on these bullets exactly match impressions on the bullets recovered from the victims. Police have their snipers. A further investigation of the Blue Caprice reveals an astonishing twist to the assassin's MO.
You can notice above the license plate area, there's a small hole cut into the frame of the vehicle itself. The snipers could actually lift up the back portion of the rear seat and crawl into the trunk area. And with the trunk open just a little bit, they were able to sight their victims.
This explains how they escaped detection and why no shell casings were found at most of the shootings. With the killers in custody, the task force wraps up operations.
The fact that this task force was able to come together and bring this case to closure in 3 weeks is very commendable.
Malvo and Muhammad are tried under Virginia's new anti-terrorism statute for homicide with intent to terrorize the government or the public at large. The trials do little to illuminate the pair's motivations. One idea of Muhammad's reasoning comes from his ex-wife, Mildred.
It's her theory that he was killing all these people so he could eventually kill her.
And she would just be one of the other random victims in this shooting spree.
And then he would get custody of the kids.
Malvo testifies against Muhammad to avoid the death penalty. He receives multiple life sentences and will never get out of jail.
Malvo contacted the police and made sure that the police knew who he was. He wanted to be a rock star out of all of this. He wanted to be famous in his own way. He is.
Muhammad has been sentenced to the death penalty in Virginia. The conviction was affirmed by the state appellate court and will stand. Muhammad was clearly the team leader and the one that had the military knowledge, the knowledge of the weapons, the plan that put in motion this whole crazy scheme.
He didn't look like a maniac killer. He looked like anybody else on the street.
John may have ended up as a psychopath, but that wasn't the way it started. If you meet him, you'll like him. He's a nice guy. He just got twisted. You know, he just, and like I said, there's no, you know, you're looking for, oh, well, it was this. No, the guy simply lost his mind.
The millions of people that live in this region had their lives taken away for an entire month, living in fear.
It wasn't just one murder victim and one family. It was so many families and so many people that it affected.
Why did it happen? I'll never know, and so I'll just always pray for the families of the victims.